This is Leading Lab Classes. We're going to introduce ourselves, tell you a little bit just about kind of who we are and our roles here at the University of Alabama, and then we'll start into a shtick, I would say, that we've been doing now. I think this is our 7th year doing this.
Right.
So, but I'm Alexa Chilcutt, and I'm the director of the public speaking program here at the University of Alabama, where it's a communication basic course. It's not a required course for all undergraduates, but a lot of the majors do require public speaking, or it's one of the 2 communication courses that they require. And so we teach about 2,000 students an academic year, and we have approximately 10 graduate students that help us teach our performance labs, and they're responsible for pretty much everything within that 50 minutes twice a week. So my job is to not only teach, and I teach other classes in the department, but to train and manage and support my graduate students who are graduate teaching assistants in the classroom.
I'm Lisa McKinney. I'm in the accounting department. Ooh, that's exciting, isn't it? And I have 12 graduate assistants, teaching assistants that teach the labs. And so I help them to try to teach the labs, keep them on track, and kind of help them to become confident in what they do.
Murray Silverstone. I'm a professor in physics and astronomy, and I teach both physics and astronomy classes. In my physics classes, I work directly with graduate TAs for they actually run the labs for my class, and in astronomy, I actually manage all of the astronomy graduate TAs who run all of the labs that we teach for our basic non-science major astronomy class.
Murray will be taking eclipse questions.
Yes.
Later. Yes.
Yeah, Monday, 1:30.
Murray, can you turn off that television?
Oh, sure.
I'm making the executive decision.
Is it driving you nuts?
That was driving me nuts. So what we're going to do is we each kind of have some ideas about ways that you can prepare kind of mentally as well as just preparing for your classes to be an instructor of a lab, and then we'll go through this, we'll kind of take turns, but then we really want to leave some time at the end open for questions, because there's no way that we're going to answer all of the questions that may be floating around. But then also we really want you to be thinking along the way as we're speaking, what could you ask us? This is kind of like Vegas, right? So it doesn't have to leave here. Think of whatever question you want to ask. This is a very kind of, it's prestigious that you're going to be a lab instructor. The university has basically entrusted you to be working with undergraduate students, and you're representing whatever program you're going to be teaching for, and so there's a lot of responsibility. But it's also a little scary, and that's okay. And I'm going to be the first one to say, you should be scared. That's okay. So as you think of some questions, and they can be off the wall, we're a great, safe kind of people that are going to give you honest advice and opinions, and don't cash those in, but we'll do what we can. So my 3, and we can do our kind of go around, but my 3 points are typically being professional, being prepared, and being approachable. So they don't all start with P's, but they have P's. So I'll start with being professional. And for me, especially teaching public speaking, because that course is so much about presence, and teaching undergraduate students how to manage their own first impressions, and you all just listen to Adam, we work together, so it's that kind of thing. Then it's also really important for my graduate students, but I would say for all of them, to think about how to be professional and what that means for you. How many of you just graduated from undergrad a couple months ago? Okay. You very well may be sitting in class with people that are your age. How many of you graduated from the University of Alabama? You very well may be being in front of the class with people that you know. And so it is vital for you to think about how you're going to create a professional persona, because you can't just automatically age 5 years. That's not going to happen, or 10 or 20, to make you credible or earn a PhD all of a sudden. But you have to kind of show that credibility. So how you dress, how you speak to your class, and of course being prepared is part of that. But also think about the professionalism. As soon as those students show up in your lab, they are going to know your name. The first impression, I'm sure he talked about it, the first impression is crucial. You all know how you feel when you walk into a class and an instructor is in shorts and flip-flops and a t-shirt. What are you automatically thinking about that class? Cool, right? Versus you walk into a class and there's a professor and they have on a suit and they're there, present. Now what are you thinking about the class?
Serious.
It's serious. Oh no. But you have the ability to frame in your student's mind the type of class that you're going to lead. And it's automatic. In that 7 to 17 seconds, people are making those snap judgments about the type of atmosphere that you're going to have in that lab. And so being professional is really something that's a first impression, but also it's going to kind of weave through that whole thing. Think about, as well, as I was saying, they're going to know your name after the first lab. Guess what they're going to do now? Google you. They are going to Google you. They are going to try to link to you. They are going to friend you on Facebook. Ignore them. On the other hand, go into Facebook, go on Google, and find all the stuff that you have out there with you in it. And if that's the impression that you want the students to have of you, great. If it's not, think about how you want to change that. And it can be something as simple as your Facebook photo and your background. No red Solo cups and, cool guy. So anyway, but professionalism is going to be key for you setting the tone for that class or lab.
My tip's going to be very different, and that's okay. But my tip would be to have fun with your lab because it will be contagious. There have been labs that you have been to that are excruciating, and you pray for death, right? Yours doesn't have to be that way. You love your subject. Mechanical engineering, don't know why you love it, but apparently you do. Physics, don't get it. But I love accounting, okay, and you don't get that. But you love your specific subject. You love it for some reason. Share that love of it. Bring in real-world examples. I'm sure you would talk about the eclipse if you had a class today, because he loves that. I'm not going to be talking about the eclipse. Okay, but I can talk about a big fraud case in the news of someone lying on their financial statements. That's exciting. Guy went to jail for 20 years. That I can bring something fun. Share what you love about it. Bring your personality into it. Remember when you had that awful lab where you watched every minute go by? Your lab doesn't have to be that way. It can be you engaging with the students and sharing your love of this subject. So have some fun. Be professional, but have some fun.
So in physics, we like to use lots of demonstrations and metaphors sometimes, and what I'm going to do with you guys is actually introduce my now tried and true metaphor of a three-layer cake. Everyone loves cake, right? So I want to try to give advice on how you're going to run your labs and how you would interact with students and interact with the professors who teach the class that you're going to be running a lab for. And I'll start with the top layer. Let's see, I have 3 layers, my layer cake. The top layer will be the professor and the administration and sending grades upward. The bottom layer will be the students that you're teaching. And the middle layer is what you're actually doing in the lab, how you actually run the lab and how you're doing your teaching. And it's we call pedagogy in the trade, I guess. But let me concentrate on the top layer right now, the professor that you are interacting with. If your lab is separate from the class, the first thing I did was just attend the lectures, and that instantly basically wrote for the first astronomy class that I ever was a TA for what I needed to do. I could see what the students were seeing, I could see the trouble they were having, and that instantly gave me a whole set of experiences very close to the experiences I had as an undergrad since I was there with them and close in age. But I could design what I was going to talk about right before I did it and just take some notes, and I'm ready to go as in that case it was a recitation lab. But similarly, preparing for the labs that you're going to be running, see what has a mindset of an undergrad, what might go wrong. Try to build into how you're going to deal with that material, what you think will go wrong, and then avoid it, or teach the students at that point what they can do to avoid that particular pitfall, because you're likely to be able to identify a lot more of these than the people who've been doing this for a long time, but from that higher level of the cake. So that's my first piece of the layer cake.
I'll go off of Murray's and also Lisa's. Being prepared. And I think absolutely you want to have that professional persona. And in that preparation, you do want to make it engaging for your students. Prepare, I mean, I know we used to have, one of our panelists was a biology professor, and she would always talk about how you never knew if you went into the lab what material wasn't there but was supposed to be there, or what equipment was broken but was supposed to be working. And so going in and going through those motions ahead of time. It's the same thing in any lab. For public speaking, we need to know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to cover, but what real life examples can I bring? What goofy, maybe we'll stay away from politics this semester. Might not be good speech topics, but what from the news or somebody's, acceptance speech from this, some kind of award show would be something that would be relevant and engaging for my students. But being prepared, if you think about those labs that you hated or those classes that you hated, what were some of the qualities of lab instructors that you did not appreciate or did not like? Anyone? Yes?
I had an instructor who was really unapproachable. Like, he would get grouchy with you every time you asked a question.
Okay, unapproachable. Anything else? Yes?
People I couldn't understand.
People you could not understand. All right, so make sure people understand you. Might have to ask, are you getting it? Can you just, right? Language understand as well. Being accessible. What else? What are some other qualities of lab instructors over the past couple of years that you did not appreciate? Or GTAs? Yes, Mackenzie?
When they try too hard to be professional.
Okay.
And they're really only 2 years older than you. So
Okay, yeah. So there's a balance, right? Yes. What were you going to say?
I had one that was like really condescending.
Oh.
Condescending.
Yeah. So approachable is big. What were you going to say?
Like the kind of lab instructors that would kind of just read through the packet like you couldn't read it yourself, but then like just take up a whole hour of the lab going over the packet, and then it would vanish.
Okay. Don't be one of those. Don't read the instructions and leave. That would be good. Yes.
Spoon feeding.
Spoon feeding. Okay. Felt like that was a little condescending, I guess. That was somebody else's thing. Anyone else? Hey, what about, this can be for lecturers as well. How many of you have shown up to a class and felt like the professor or the instructor or the graduate student was just completely winging it for 50 minutes? Anybody? And how did you feel in that time? Cheated. Ooh, great word. So don't do that to your students. Be prepared. Know what you're going to do ahead of time. Go in there enthusiastically, sharing that information, engaging with them. But that's also going to make you feel better about just teaching and your engagement and involvement. So preparation is key. All right.
I want to say know your place, and that sounds negative, but I mean it in a positive way. Understand what your role is. Number one, you have a set of guidelines that have given to you by the professors you're working with. This is a very good thing. Know when to elevate something. You do not have to engage in debates and arguments. You have people above you that can deal with that. You maintain a line. Well, our guidelines in this class are that our quiz, you get 1 attempt on the online quiz. The rules that I'm defending, and I'm here, this is my job is, and this is what you're thinking, you got 1 attempt. I have no power to change that. That's a good thing. You're just getting started. At the end of the day, it's my problem, your problem for the really tough, ugly stuff. So that's a good thing. You always have a bad cop above you in a way. I want you to understand that. It's not your battle. Here's your guidelines, here's the rules, and you're going to defend them. You're not going to say this is a stupid rule. That's what I mean by know your place. We don't like that when you say, oh God, professor's so stupid.
Why did she do that?
No, I mean, that's not it. But it's not your problem. That's the rule. If you have a problem with that, I cannot change that rule. You can't, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Move along. Here's the email of the professor you can talk to. I'd love to take that from you. That's my job, not yours. That's good.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see, where was I? I actually already got delved into the bottom layer. I apologize, I didn't separate this out. So top layer was the professor going to class maybe. Bottom layer are the students. You're closer in age. You can use the language they understand. You're going to figure out from their mindset what will and won't work and what you need to explain around. The middle part, that pedagogy, your interaction with the students, the interaction with the professor, and putting it all together. Let's see, we have certainly lots of information for you in general about how to run the labs, about what the content is. You already know a lot about what the concepts are, but what you need to do is get the students to absorb things that are alien to them. You're going to want to get them to talk about it. The best thing that we've learned in at least physics education research, but it seems to cover lots of the different topics for academia, is that if you can get a student to argue about the topic, to discuss with another student, they will be able to shore up what they know and identify things they don't know. And that discussion is kind of a natural effect of what happens in most labs. Most labs have groups and the groups work together, but do what you can to get the students to engage with each other and with you about the course material, about the lab material. And the more you can get those beneficial discussions going, the better the students are going to do. The better they will learn the material, and then the better grades they'll get, and then you'll look like a fantastic instructor. Right? I think that's enough for the middle at the moment, but eventually we're going to cut into this cake and mix up the layers and see how that works.
Well, go ahead with your,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
finish
shall I
your
cut?
analogy and we'll come back.
All right, I got better cut into this cake. Okay, so promoting student discussion, taking a bite here. Mixing the top and the middle, I think, was what I was trying to say before about, deadlines. I didn't get to deadlines. When there's a deadline for something to be prepared, for grades to be submitted, these are usually things that are out of the control of the person you're working with above. That goes several layers up in the administration. But if you're going to miss a deadline, it is so important to let the faculty member you're working with, or whoever needs to know, let them know this is coming. Because there's so much more we can do and help you if we know there's going to be a problem than after the problem occurred. So don't just blow off deadlines, really big no-no. But definitely give warning, give heads up when you know the problem is going to occur, and even if it's a deadline or something. Let's see. We have, I know I had one more thing I wanted to hit with the top and the middle. Self-assessment, there we go. That's one of my biggest problems when I'm teaching a class, is I haven't figured out, I've been teaching for 8 years now here at Alabama, I can't figure out how to get the majority of students who are struggling to figure out why they're struggling, to self-assess. And if that's something that you can discover, you will find really a magic bullet of education. This is something that probably comes with experience, but your students are going to have limited experience. Do what you can to help them self-assess, to help them look at what they're having trouble with. It might come naturally in some of these discussions I was talking about, but if you can help students help themselves, your job will be so much easier, as will ours.
You want me to go back? Sure. Okay. In regards to kind of helping them help themselves, one of my most successful graduate, I've had plenty of wonderful GTAs, but Hunter Coward was so fantastic. And one of the things that she came up with was my responsibility, your responsibility. And this is what she would say to students. She would go into labs and she would be obviously very prepared. She would have, contact hours or office hours for her students that they could come in and be with her. You all need to think about what is the best way that you want students to contact you. What email do you want them to use? What kind of parameters are you going to give yourself? I will get back with you. I'll respond to your email in 24 hours. If I don't, send me another one, or 48, whatever it is. Be really, articulate that on the front end. Because what you're doing, and as well as your lab policies possibly, something as simple as no food or drink in the labs, or arriving on time for the labs, or no chewing tobacco and spitting in cups in the labs, whatever. You have to think about
Alabama,
those things.
y'all.
Yeah.
It is. And so, but she created these expectations about what her responsibilities were for her students. She said, I will make sure that I'm organized, that I have your speech dates in our content page on Blackboard ahead of time, that I'm emailing and responding to you, that I'm getting your grades back in a timely fashion, all of these expectations. But then she said, That's my responsibility. I'm going to be prepared and I'm going to be here and I'm going to do what I say. Your responsibility is understanding the syllabus, doing the assignments, being on time, turning them in. And so when students would come up to her, she was very approachable and they loved her. But she would say, is this my responsibility or is this your responsibility? And it was amazing because students kind of had to have that moment of like self-check. I guess I was supposed to take care of that. And what can I do to help you if you need any help? But the my responsibility, your responsibility was a great kind of delineation between her helping them and being approachable and being prepared, but them also being accountable for their own work in the lab.
My best tip from being an instructor here for 15 years is try to develop a tough skin over the upcoming year. The one thing that everybody loves to do in this society today is criticize other people. Think of the greatest human being you know. If you went on the internet, there are so many people that are going to destroy them. People will find flaws in supermodels or LeBron James, right? So imagine you are going to get criticized. It's a great practice for you in your later profession to be able to deal with that. The higher you get up in your professional life, the more people are going to criticize you. Wow, have I got some criticism. My favorite from Rate My Professor is, she hasn't lost the baby weight yet. She's still fat. Thank you. Okay? Thank you. Another one saying, I just wasn't attractive enough. I'm like, I'm an accounting professor. Have you seen the people in my hallway? I'm doing just fine. I'm an accounting professor. Is this supermodel school? I don't think it was. So that's a low blow, yeah? But you know what? Bring it, man. I hope you don't get things like that. But it's today's society. People are nasty, aren't they? That may be one kid out of 100 that says something negative. Yes, sometimes they say something worthwhile. Sometimes they may say, man, I couldn't hear what they said. Well, guess what? You're learning from that. But there are going to be comments that are just nasty. I'm sorry. Try to take that as a learning experience and just say, this is life. If I'm going to be in front of people and I've chosen to do that, it's going to just get worse. You get where it doesn't bother you, believe it or not. So this will be a learning experience. Now, there are going to be moments, girls, where you're going to want to cry. Guys are going to want to punch a wall. And then some guys cry and some girls punch walls. But you're going to have that moment and try to just kind of laugh it off and talk to your TA and say, and just get ready, man. You're going to get a couple of those. There's not going to be 50 of them, but they're going to burn a little bit. You with me?
Yeah.
And you just got to go, whoa, was there anything valid in that? Yes, I had trouble losing the baby weight. I'm working on it. But it does not affect my ability to teach you accounting. Okay? I'm going to go eat some donuts. So, good advice.
So I can riff off all sorts of stuff that's happening here. One about setting expectations is also modeling being a good student. So if you don't want your students to text and waste time browsing the internet or swipe left or right, don't do it yourself either. In that lab room, you are the authority. So you sort of have to fill that role. So do what you expect your students to do. Bring a serious attitude towards the information in the class and the information and the dangers and the how to make things easier, but in a very professional way. Let's see also about the these really negative feedback you can get on some of these student evaluations at the end of the semester, and I still get ones that burn. Build a community of your peers, of your friends who are also lab instructors or people who have done it in the past several years. They are resources for you. They also have lots of information and tips of how to do things well or how to avoid problems, but share some of that information. You'll find out they got them too, and it's something that you can trade war stories about, and that really helps get over a lot of this negativity and part of what you're going to do.
One of the greatest tools that we started doing a couple of years ago, and I would say around midterm, doesn't matter what class you're teaching, what subject it is, this is brilliant. And it rolls into, honestly, it helps at the end with your evaluations. About midterm, go into your lab, copy off a couple of, third of a piece of paper for each student and say stop, start, keep. Stop, start, keep. For my GTAs, I'll give it to you. You'll know when to do it. But you hand it to your students at the end of one lab and you say, all right, it's midterm. What are we doing in here, or what am I doing as an instructor that you would like me to stop doing, or that we could stop doing? Maybe it's reiterating things too many times, right? Like maybe you're spoon feeding them and you don't know that you're spoon feeding them. Maybe it's they don't like you playing music at the beginning of lab. I mean, it could be whatever. Then what could you start doing that you're not doing that would make it easier for them? They'll come up with some things. Tell them this is going to be anonymous. You walk out of the room, let them put them on the front of the class. You pick them up. They don't put their names on them. And then what are you doing that they like? What can you keep? You can take that, as they've said, have a tough skin about it, because somebody's going to say something that's smart alecky. It's just life. But if you go, I'm telling y'all, this is secret to success here. If you walk back into that lab the next time that you meet and you say, you know what, I read through all of them, there were some really good suggestions. Some of these things I can't stop doing. That daggum Dr. Chilcutt made those quizzes due when they're due, and I hate that for you. But here are some things that I will stop, or here are some things that we can do more of. If they feel like you actually listen to them, you have just turned many of them who were kind of disgruntled back into your court. They feel heard and listened to, and they will re-engage with you. It's an amazing thing. The other thing is, yes, you're going to all be, surveyed at the end, but the group me, how many of you were in classes as undergrads that y'all had group me groups? Okay. Your people are going to know that they're in the same lab together. They might create a group me. This has happened in public speaking. And so my suggestion would be, honestly, if you want to take charge of it and you want to do this, some people suggest actually being proactive and saying, let's start a class group me. Everybody be in that, and they can ask each other questions back and forth, and it keeps the dialogue, but they also know that you're included in that group, and they're not going off and making a subset. But what's happening is they're across all of our labs, since we have, let's say, 20 labs, people are starting a 123, COM 123 group me, and they're comparing what Mackenzie is doing in her lab versus what Bentley, right, is doing in his lab. New people. Okay. And so you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent, even in your own lab. If you gave somebody extra points for something, they're going to let everybody else know. And so you have to be consistent in today's technology kind of thing. So open yourself up for feedback. That would be great, but also kind of manage ways that they can give each other feedback about what's going on.
I'm ready to open it for
Okay.
questions.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
any questions? Off the wall? Anything?
I got one.
Okay.
What's the best compliment you've gotten or proud of? Talk about bad ones. What's the good one?
I mean, great compliments. I mean, being enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Being enthusiastic is a great one.
She cared about me. That feels good. No, I don't always care, but sometimes. Sometimes say I don't care. But when they honestly said it anonymously, she actually cared about me learning and me. Wow, all right. That's a good compliment. I'll take
absolutely. I get a lot of enthusiastic too, and love the demonstrations. So
Love the demonstrations?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of demos, lots of fun in the classroom, and nothing else sticks out except to say that I do bring that enthusiasm into the room, and I very much encourage you to do the same.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the case in every subject, but at least most of the classes I've been in, if you fail the lab, then you fail the course altogether. If someone comes into my office crying about boosting their grade, how do I get that to go back up to the professor and get that out?
Know your place.
No.
Yeah, you do not have that authority. Why even go there for you? That's so stressful for you.
Yeah.
Know that that is going to happen.
A
You're going
lot.
to get bagged. I'll do anything.
lot.
Well, you didn't come to class for 4 months, so you apparently won't do anything. I mean, I will do anything. I love that comment at the end of the semester. I have no authority. This is all you have to say. I have no authority to do that. You need to talk to your instructor about what your options are with the class at this time. I can help you to study better and try, I can give you study tips. I can help you how to improve. There is nothing I can do to boost your grades. Say it very clearly, look them in the eye. I know you're upset, and what I can do for you is this, this, and this. I can talk you through that homework problem. I can show you how to do that. I can tell you what you just did wrong there. I cannot boost your grade. I'm not given the authority. That's awesome. Not your problem.
Yeah. And I would definitely encourage you to be sympathetic. Of course, that's something that is always going to work with any student who's having a problem, even if you can't do anything about it. But yeah, just be firm and say, I wish I could, but that's up to the people running the course. You can't do that.
Yes.
So basically, two questions. Like, first question is if I can say that students are not allowed to use phones and computers in class. And the second question is, if a student complain about their grades, like how I should behave.
Okay. For the phone and the computer thing, I would ask your instructor if you're allowed to say that. But for my people, yes, they can have a no phone, no laptop rule, because they're supposed to be being engaged in our labs, not taking notes, there's no functional reason for them to have the phone or the computer out. And so we have a no technology rule in those labs. I think you can impose that in your
Most
lab.
instructors will let you have that authority because they want you to take ownership of your own lab.
Mm-hmm.
That's a positive thing for us, for you to be in command of your lab. And if you want to say no phones, now I don't do that in my lecture classes because I've got 250 people and I'm just not.
hard.
But I'll say things. Hey guys, how's that going on the phone there? You enjoying that? I'm pretty sure what I'm saying is going to help you get through this class. I mean, I will say things like that, but I'm not going to go through and do that. Your choice. If you have a lab of 20 people, you get to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, in my classes, it's possible that they could be doing something related to the class on the computer or on the phone or taking notes, which I definitely encourage. So I have a kind of difficult situation of how do I try to encourage them not to swipe left and whatever else, chat with their friends. So a lot of the material that's happening in the classroom, it's kind of time limited. So I try to really emphasize, if you're not on task, if you're not trying to do what we're doing as a group here, then you're going to miss out and your grades are going to suffer. So just try to use that as a lever, but there isn't a whole lot else I really figured out.
It's not really high school anymore. That's the big difference, right? And to some extent, it is their responsibility. And if they don't want to learn or listen to you, they will not do it, right? You try to be entertaining, enthusiastic, and do a good job, but there are just going to be people that will not listen no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. That's their choice.
And I just wanted to add one other thing. That goes back to setting expectations. If they're allowed to use it, but the expectation is that it's for the class, make sure you say that and make sure that they understand what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. And what was the second part again? Remind me.
If a student complain about their grades, like in the lab reports, what's the best way to do in relation to it?
Okay, maybe one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they will complain. First of all.
They will complain.
And again, if there's a policy, just stick to your guns on that policy. You have a certain number of assignments, certain grades on each assignment. You try to be as fair as possible to everyone, but you have no latitude in just saying, I like you, so I'll give you a higher grade. Obviously, that's not allowed. So you have to be fair to everyone in the class, and that's what the rules are about. So just sort of try to set that level on the expectation and remind them when they're complaining.
I've never seen a case where a TA had that authority. And you don't want that because it's annoying. Because then, you know what I'm saying? And we have to make that decision. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Not your call ever as a TA. I've never seen that be your call. Yay, you don't want that. Okay, I'm sorry you're having trouble. I will, I'll help with the introduction to the professor to kind of give them a heads up on what's coming. I have no authority to change your grade. My job is to follow the syllabus.
But they are going to complain. They are going to complain about their lab grades or their speech grades or whatever else. And so the more that you can, the more consistent it is. Like, there is a right answer and a wrong answer. Obviously, you gave the wrong answer. For public speaking, we video record every single speech. And one of our greatest tools is for a student to come and complain about, you gave me such a terrible grade on my speech. Great, come to my office and we will watch your speech together. Once they have to watch their own speech, they don't argue anymore about the grade they have, because as you'll see tomorrow, watching yourself is never fun. But do what you can do, But then, yes, you'll probably turn it back over to your person. Go ahead, behind you.
Quick question, kind of on the same line. What if you're one of, like a dozen TAs for one of these huge classes?
Right.
And one of the other TAs is grading, I don't know, maybe somewhat easier, especially for things like lab reports. And then one of your students then comes up to you and is like, I can point to you and I can show you that this dude is getting this grade for this lab report.
Yeah.
And my lab report, and honestly, like, their lab report is of a similar quality. Should I then adjust like all of my grades? Should I bring it up to the professor?
Honestly, and here, I'm gonna say this because we try and do the same thing. This is really the responsibility, to some degree, of the person who's over you.
Not
To
yours.
have a training for everyone so that there's some consistency in the way that you're grading. If they're not providing that training, then the thing that you can do, as they were talking about earlier, is creating that cohort of other GTAs. And y'all compare how you're grading, because they are going to get on GroupMe and they're going to say, this, it's happened to us. They identify that one person is harder than everybody else. And then what it creates is everybody that's in that person's lab who's perceived, doesn't even have to be grading harder, perceived as grading harder, starts getting a lot of pushback.
Elevate it to the professor.
So, but
Yeah.
but I would get with my cohorts and try and have some, like, how are we going to grade these, right? So, like, some consistency. All right, go ahead.
My lab has lots of group work.
Okay.
How do you make sure that everyone's doing actual work, not just copying papers?
What subject is this?
It's geology 104.
I think again, this goes back to your professor.
Yeah.
If there isn't something in the syllabus that says part of your grade is based on a group evaluation, that's not what you can do. You will be told, and if you need to, ask your professor, don't make up stuff that's not in your syllabus, that you have not been told to do. It makes your life harder. So if your professor has not said, and I've seen it both ways, some professors are like, it's group work, everybody gets the same grade, I'm not policing it. Some people have the group evaluations at the end that 25% of your grade is based on people rating you and your participation. But it's not your fight.
I would also encourage you, if you see this happening, to try to ask the students who are not looking like they're engaged questions about what they're doing, and try to get them to talk to their group members about why this number makes sense and this other number doesn't. And just try to engage at that real time. Obviously, you can't do that for every single lab all the time, but at least get them over an initial hump, and then try to encourage that they will do better on the other class that this is based on. If there's a lecture side of it, if they understand what they did in the lab.
Yeah, you can facilitate. You can encourage those quiet members.
Yeah.
All right, anyone from the peanut gallery over here? Anybody? No? Okay, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, as you guys are over some GTAs, what kind of communication do you expect from us, and how often, like what the nature of that is?
Well, we have a weekly meeting. So we actually have an orientation next Monday just for our people. And then there's a weekly meeting. But I don't know that I'm the norm. So I email my people. I have people. I email my people every Sunday. And I say, yes, according to the schedule, this is what's going on this week. Then we have a meeting on Tuesday. And I'm there. And if I'm there, they can be in my space. That's sometimes why I work from home, because I can't get work done. But I want lots of communication, and the reality is I want communication. I want them to let me know what's going on in a lab. I would much rather them be proactive. Like, there's a student in my lab and they haven't shown up for 2 weeks. Then I can reach out to that student and say, as the instructor, hey, I'm just checking on you. You haven't been in lab, want to make sure everything's okay. What's going on? So I'd rather, or they come and bring me problems, not bring me problems, but tell me, okay, this is happening. This is how I think I'm going to handle it. And I can give them feedback on, yeah, that's a great way. Go forth, So I'm all for communication.
I can jump in also. There's very much style difference for different instructors, different professors, but I would say that if you feel like there's something you want to communicate, absolutely go for it. It's always better to give the faculty member eyes and ears of what's happening in the room if there's anything that you think they should know. And I'd also say that it's not unreasonable to talk once a week if you are comfortable with that. Yeah.
We got time for one more question, seems like.
Okay.
With office hours, if you're holding office hours, is it best to like have maybe like a couple of practice problems for students to come in and like give them ideas of problems that'll be on that, or do you expect most of the students to come in with like specific questions on specific problems?
We ask them to come in with specific problems, but what we get are, I don't know how to do any of this. So what you have to be ready for is, well, I can't reteach the entire chapter, but I need you to, so it's you're in control.
Yeah.
What specifically? This week we talked about these 5 things in lecture. What of that can I help you with? Well, I didn't understand this thing we did. Well, there's a start. But you have to set a boundary of, I'm not redoing the lectures here. I've got office hours. I want to help, but they have to, again, my responsibility, your responsibility.
Yeah.
They've got to put some work into it. You're not.
Yeah.
So give me a topic and let me work a problem, for example, or what are you struggling with? So you're going to have to set that boundary and say, I'm going to need some more specific things. Here's some things we went over. Which one of those would you like me to help you with? Set the boundary.
Okay. All right. Hopefully this was beneficial for you, and Godspeed. Go ahead.